Hey guys, welcome back to episode 4 of the Poop Naked Dynasty season preview. We are finishing up with last year's bottom place finishers in terms of max points scored. It's my team, so I brought out the Sarah V because you guys are going to watch me roster bait for about 15 minutes, which is 14 and a half minutes longer than I can usually go for. So you guys are in for a real treat. I think this episode will be kind of interesting. I'll try to go a little bit more in detail about like my thought process, why I like these players, why kind of my process in building that. And as you get familiar with using the Dynasty Daddy website, if that's something that you choose to do, it'll become more clear, like, why some of these numbers look the way they look, and why it's important to take the rankings with a grain of salt, because my team is very like skewed to be more highly valued by these websites, which doesn't always correlate to fantasy success. As you can see from last year, like my team was pretty highly ranked by these sites, and I finished fourth from last. So it's not the end all be all. It's just a fun way to kind of help decide a direction, figure out teams to target for trades that are win-win. To just have as much fun as possible. So I'm gonna share my screen here. My brain stopped working. Whoops. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. So, boy, this is real letdown. Come on, there we go. Okay, so here we go. Let's move this little guy. Okay, so going to Dynasty Daddy, here we are. Contender view. Finding my team, Consensual Flex. Great Deshaun Watson pawn. Very classy. I try to keep it classy here in this league, as you can tell. So let's dive in. Starting from the left, quarterback rankings. So I will be rolling out Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. This is kind of where I think my season will hinge. Deshaun Watson, I got him in the startup. I think it was the 5th round. It was pretty risky at the time because he was missing half of the season with a suspension, and he came back looking rough. He did not inspire confidence, but he has a huge track record of being like a perennial top 5 scorer. Like if you go under his player page in Sleeper and you scroll through his past seasons with these scoring formats, it's just bonkers what this guy has been able to do. He's only like 26 or 27, which is crazy. Like I thought he was at least like 30 something, but he's definitely creepy like most 30 somethings. But really just I think if he pops, this team will go as far as he takes them. Lamar Jackson hurt for a lot of last year. I think that allowed me to kind of tank my way into the losers bracket and still win that compensatory pick. And I was able to do that because Kirk Cousins was just so good. He is probably the most underrated, one of the most underrated quarterbacks. He is just, all he does is produce top 10, top 12 seasons. He's not ever sexy. I think last year he was quarterback 8 in terms of points per game. He doesn't run, but he is just so efficient. He's got Justin Jefferson. Now he's got Jordan Addison. He is going to be a great insurance policy. Hopefully Lamar should take another step with getting rid of the Greg Roman offense. No more read option. It should be 3-4 wide, just spread them out, chuck it. The Ravens should be very excited. I'm very excited to see what Lamar Jackson can do. His highlights are just, they're so fucking good. When he's on, it is just, he's a joy to watch. So really hoping that he can stay healthy and be like he has a quarterback 1 ceiling, like overall in him. Like he's just that good. So yeah, pretty optimistic about the quarterbacks. But if Deshaun Watson plays like he did last year, this is probably going to be a fairly capped season. Going to the running backs. So this is a good example of how websites like this, Keep Trade Cut and Dynasty Daddy, that can really not tell a full story. So I have the highest running back room. I have some good running backs, but really just look at all these fucking guys. Like there's just so many. I probably have at least 13 people in my running back spot. You can tell by the graph, like the maroon is running backs. Like mine is easily the biggest. That's what she said. So in terms of contender, like I just have a lot of volume here. You know, these top two guys, they're valuable in terms of dynasty rank, but Brees is hurt. I mean, he's coming off an ACL. He's probably not going to be a superstar this year. Plus, they have Dalvin Cook. And he's projected as a starter, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt. Got a lot riding on Bijan. Bijan is my most valuable player, which is kind of crazy. He's being valued higher than Lamar Jackson, which I don't necessarily agree with, but his college highlights are just, they're so stupid. Like they're so good. He's you could argue he's a better prospect than Saquon Barkley was. Like he's so good. And I owe him all to you, Chris. Thank you so much. I am looking forward to him scoring mountains and mountains of fantasy points. But at the same time, running back is probably the most volatile position. You know, if he look at Brees Hall was the number one running back last year, and he tore his ACL. He's still really valuable, but his value has definitely taken a hit. So I love having at least elite assets on my team, but you know, you're always just hoping to avoid that, to get that injury luck, because that's how championships are made. And then I'm just hoping that some of these guys hit and can be serviceable, maybe trade pieces. You know, maybe some of them turn into RB2s and increase in value. And then this number actually looks like a very scary number in terms of ranking. So really just taking a ton of shots here through the rookie draft. It'll be interesting to see how things go. In terms of wide receivers, this was something that I really tried to overhaul last season. I think maybe two of these guys are ones who I drafted in the startup: Elijah Moore, Calvin Ridley, and I drafted these guys, but they don't really count because they're not projected. I mean, they're good players, but they're probably just flex or bye week players at this point, which are valuable in a league where you can start 11 or not 11. You start 11 total players, but you can start up to 6 wide receivers every week. Super high on Garrett Wilson. This guy is someone who his highlights are just, they're so good. Like he is crazy with the ball in his hands. He's such a good route runner. I was not expecting for him to be as good as he was when I traded for him, but I am so high on this guy. Like there are some people who think that he could be the next Justin Jefferson. I am not one of those people, but it's clear that he has something, and Aaron Rodgers is much better than whatever was throwing to him last year. So he'll be super fun to watch. T. Higgins, probably the best wide receiver 2 you could hope for. He's not as good as Jamar Chase, but he could easily be number 1 wide receiver on probably all but 5 or 6 teams in the league. Like he is so good. When Chase goes down, he feasts. When Chase is healthy, he's still really good. Love having him as my wide receiver 2. These next 2 are kind of my dark horses. Calvin Ridley has been great with reports coming out of camp. You know, he might have a wide receiver 1 overall finish on his resume. I'm not sure. He's just a filthy route runner. He's a little bit older than I would like for my high-end wide receivers, but he should be the number 1 for Trevor Lawrence, who looks really good. I'm super excited to see what he can do. Hopefully it'll be worth holding him. through all of last season because he was just a draft pick that I had to eat. Mari Cooper got him in a trade. Pretty stoked about that. Like having him and Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun's good, he's going to be good. I think he was just like wide receiver 12 or something. I think that was probably the best season he has. He's definitely on the wrong side. I think he's like 29. He could be 30 soon. I definitely like him as a wide receiver 4. If he pops, like he's another one where if he does well, this team will probably be very tough to beat. Chris Godwin, so underrated. Like coming off ACL last year, I could not believe how good he was at commanding volume and accruing catches. I think he's going to be a great safety blanket for Baker. I think he's only like 27 or 26, so he's got a lot of football left in the tank. And this should be where he really hits his stride coming off that ACLs in year 2. So really excited to see what he can do. Elijah Moore, this is a guy who I stand for in a lot of dynasty leagues. He is super polarizing. Like he is such a good route runner. He's so twitchy with the ball in his hands. And it was very sad to watch the Jets coaching staff just refuse to give him touches, which is tough when you have Garrett Wilson on your team. I will give him that. But he's a bit of a diva. He's very pouty. He badmouthed the coaches and they shipped him to Cleveland for nothing. All the reports out of Cleveland are that they love him. They're going to use him out of the backfield. They're going to use him in the slot. He's looked pretty good in the preseason. So really hoping that he can have a great season just because he's one of my guys. And it's always fun when your guys pop. Bateman, he's a guy I traded for Josh. I traded a 24 seconds for him. In hindsight, I probably should have tried to get someone else with that 24 second, but he's another one that I've loved him since he was a Gopher. Good size, good speed. The only question is the health. He's coming off a Liz Frank injury. They just drafted Zay Flowers, and they've got OBJ there. Everybody's the number 1 or number 2 behind Andrews. So if he pops on, him and Lamar could be a pretty good stack. These other guys are interesting. Mooney has been 1,000-yard receiver, but now they have DJ Moore. Curtis Samuel's more of a gadget guy. Good flex. And then Calvin Austin is just he's so fucking fast, man. Like he's one that's very under the radar for a lot of people. He had some pretty nasty preseason highlights a couple of weeks ago. But he's a good one that's just like a stash players with interesting profiles and elite tools. I think he's like a 4-3 guy. And Pittsburgh just knows wide receivers. So I'm trusting their process and just kind of rostering him. If he doesn't hit, I'm not going to be hurting for it because I've got a lot of other guys I feel I can start. Tight ends. This one is kind of it's kind of a bittersweet one. Kyle Pitts is someone who's pretty polarizing. He's arguably the best tight end prospect we've ever seen. Certainly the most athletic when adjusting for height and weight. Is the draft capital. He's just in an offense where they do not throw. I reached for him hard in the startup draft, and that was probably a mistake. I replay that a lot last year, and he's one that I'm happy to have him. I know he's talented, like his advanced stats say he's talented. I think it's just going to be, is Ritter good? There's tons of clips of Mariota just sailing passes to Kyle Pitts, and he's wide open on these money routes. So if he turns it on, if he takes the leap, to tier below Kelsey, which is very reasonable, that would be huge in this league. If not, Evan Ingram, very startable. Good safety blanket for Trevor Lawrence. They just extended him. I think he's a great backup tight end. Juwan Johnson was probably my best waiver wire pickup last year. He's a converted wide receiver to a tight end, very similar to Darren Waller. Reports are out of New Orleans that he's just absolutely crushing it. He got better at blocking, so he's going to be on the field a whole lot more. So pretty excited to see what he can do. Probably not going to be a starter for me if these two hit, but certainly a very capable bye week player like he was for me last year. Taysom Hill, I don't know. He's kind of a novelty. Josh gave him to me for free. So he's kind of like the free pens that you get at those booths at the fair. Like you're happy to take it, but you hope you never have to use it. If car goes down, he could be a quarterback that I could start out on my tight end spot. So worth holding. Certainly interesting, but he's probably more of a roster clogger for me at this point. But at this point, I'm not. There are other people I can cut before him. So we'll see what happens. In terms of draft capital, this is depressed quite a bit because I traded that 24-second to Josh. So, that's why this number is probably closer to 8. So in terms of trade value, my team is towards the top again. I think a lot of this is just bolstered by so many young running backs who are going to be insulated, really above average quarterbacks, kind of even at QB3, and then just like young players like Kyle Pitts who are just so insulated against value. Like even if he disappoints, the community is still going to value him a lot because I think he's only 22. Like he's just going to be valuable for so long unless he gets hit by a bus or if he steps into a wormhole to another dimension. Like he's going to be valuable for a while. Looking back at my draft, pretty much just running backs all over the place. There were some wide receivers that I would have taken flyers on, but to me, I just was feeling like the best player available when I came to draft was a running back. I think my biggest mistake was probably not drafting Tank Bigsby against A-Chain. I think A-Chain was the better player in college, but I'm just more bummed that he's been hurt with a shoulder injury. He's probably more talented than Tank, but my gut when I made the trade was to draft Tank, and then I talked myself out of him and drafted A-Chain. So ultimately, I got Bijan. I think he was the best player in the draft. Charbonnet, not my favorite comp pick, but again, he was the best player on the board at the time. I was really hoping either Flowers or Kincaid would have fallen. That would have been probably a better pick. But honestly, everybody really nailed the first round of the rookie draft, I thought. So really good job overall. Looking at my trades, I've kind of touched on the Bateman one. Mario Cooper, I got from Cooper for Cortland Sutton. We'll see how that one goes. Judy just, I think, tore a hamstring. So Sutton is right now the wide receiver 1. This one could easily be a push. Cooper's probably better, but Sutton is a few years younger. So they're probably a lot similar in value. Then I just think it's kind of a push, really. That third, so my third round pick turned into Josh Downs. Good wide receiver prospect, small though, slot for Anthony Richardson. I'm not sure Anthony Richardson is going to be very good this year as a passer. He's certainly not as good as Michael Pittman. It's questionable whether he's as good as Alec Pierce. So to me, I'm okay. I would rather have Amari Cooper. I think I got the better player. I think I got the best player on the deal, even though Cooper probably edged me a little bit getting 2 younger wide receivers. So we'll see how that trade pans out. I already touched on the Jacoby Myers for Devin A-Chain. This trade was a mistake. I had a massive headache at work, and I thought I was sending Curtis Samuel instead of Paris Campbell. I just don't know what happened. I think Curtis Samuel is fine, but I would have liked Campbell more just because that wide receiver room is much more wide open. But I also don't know if Logan makes that trade if it's Curtis Samuel. So I'm not really sure what happened there. So Logan got my third, which turned into, where did it go? That's weird. Or no, I got his third, which turned into Tajay Spears. Yeah, that's what it is. I like Tajay Spears a lot. He doesn't have any ACLs, but he is a really good rushing profile, good athlete. Derrick Henry's old. maybe he retires soon. Spears is easily the best backup they have. So to give up a receiver that I probably wasn't going to start for an interesting dart throw, certainly the last guy of this tier of receivers, in my opinion, I think was worth it for me. I think Logan probably needed a little bit of depth, so maybe a win-win. We'll see. This is really just tied to, how long does Derrick Henry play and how does that knee hold up? This could easily be a wash. Both players could be useless for both of us. So I like the dart throws, though. I just wanted to gamble, and I love trades. Other guy in this round I would have wanted to draft probably would have been Sean Tucker, but Kaner jumped. He definitely drafted him ahead of ADP, but I think that was probably a shrewd pick just based on where Josh was slated to pick. Didn't have a pick for the rest of the third. So I think that's all the trades that I made, and hopefully not the last, but so that was my team. Obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit more just because I can give a little bit more detail about my guys, but it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. A lot of times I have teams that I think look great on paper, and then, the injury bug hits, or, things just don't go the way you think they will. And then that's all she wrote. So it'll be interesting to see how this team shakes out. Definitely one to watch. So best of luck to me. Good luck to all of you. Gonna start doing the playoff teams from last year. So we'll start with sixth place team, and we'll finish with Cooper being the champ. So hopefully I'll get these up tonight, Monday, August 28th. Hope you guys are liking them. I'm going to do 6 more regardless of what you all think. So best of luck, and let's keep the league as active as we can. Thanks again, guys. This has been really fun, and I'm glad you all are in the league with me. You're going to watch again as I struggle to find out how to stop this recording. And there it is. Peace out.